We're returning to Job, and I really wanted to go over Job chapter by chapter, verse by verse, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to start in verse 38, but I'm going to do a quick backdrop. Of course, we all know the story of Job, or at least we've heard the story of Job. And the Most High said some very wonderful things about Job. And the verse started out 1:1. It said, there was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. Let me read that again. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. There were several things that I drew out of my study and my asking for deeper meaning about the story of Job, because many of us have kind of lived many of us have had excerpts of Job in the last few years. And many of us are still dealing with it. And the story of Job is a reflection of what the entire creation is dealing with right now. The story of Job points out many of our character flaws, many of our misunderstandings about the Bible that we think we know backwards and forwards. The misunderstandings that we have when we think we're given a word from the Most High. And I'm not saying that none of those things are real or true, because they are. But a lot of times we get things confused because we are so inundated with our own thought process and the things that we would like, or the things that we thirst after from the Most High. Job had 3 friends that came in, and in the beginning they meant well. And they exercised wisdom when they came, and they came because they came to comfort him. They came because they knew that the devastation that befell him could have befell them. But it was him. They came to offer support initially. Job suffered the loss. Job and his wife suffered the loss. 10 things. Job exhibited humble power. Job persevered. Job was courteous to his friends. He listened to what they had to say because they, like we often do, prefaced this. They said it as if it were from God. Remember now, it was Job that suffered the loss. It was Job that was paying the price, not the people in the stands. Job also, he had a shield of truth and he had an armor of integrity. You see, sometimes integrity is not only doing the right thing when nobody's looking. Integrity sometimes will force you to suffer ignorance. Now, when I use the term ignorance, I don't mean it in the ugly sense, like when you're arguing with somebody and you just say, you just ignorant. I don't mean it that way. Because sometimes people are well-meaning, but still ignorant. And I know in Christianity, we put everything on, well, I didn't mean any harm. It still hurt. Or we'll say, did I do that? It still frustrated the person that's already suffering. See, saints, sometimes the very thing we set out to do, we pile on more pain. That's not what, God knows my heart. I didn't. He does. And you know what he said about our hearts? It's deceitfully wicked. But see, when they say that, they mean, I'm as pure as the driven snow. I wouldn't hurt a fly, Job, in all that he had to face and all that he endured, Job learned to trust in divine wisdom. His friends had a semblance of wisdom. And we're going to get to that because, see, a lot of us interact with one another. And in a lot of cases, we've been off base. Now, we think what we said was profound. And then we use scriptures to justify the profound statement we think we made. But the Most High, he will address that also. And keep this in mind, what the three gentlemen did was still noble. But something got in the way of the good they had intended. Somehow, it didn't come out that way. Job also Job also did believe in the power of prayer, and he was obedient because later on, after his friends had their say, and he responded to each one of them, and Job made the better argument. If that's Job had the better midrash, since we're Hebrew scholars. Job got the better of the midrash in each one of those situations. Of the three, Job was willing to learn and grow. Job was willing to learn and grow. Here's something that we can all practice. Job eventually accepted the situation and he began to move on. But it didn't happen overnight. And then maybe it didn't happen fast enough for some people. But again, because Job was the one that suffered loss, it's up to Job when he's ready to move on. Not somebody sitting on the sidelines saying, come on, man, come on. You know, remember, well, some of us, if you played sports, if you got hurt, what would the coach say? Shake it off. You know, get back in there. I said, well, let me whack your knee and see how quick you want to get back up. You know, that's how I used to think, you know. Job held on. I mean, things were ugly for Job. Now, this isn't a bad word, but at that time, life really sucked for Job. That's not a bad word. Don't turn off this stream. Job also realized and believed with everything. Remember, Job was the one that said, you know, basically, if he slay me, I'm still going to serve him. Now that's faith. That's faith. Not faith is the substance of things, hope for, you know, all that stuff that we learned eons ago. And I don't want to keep saying it because then somebody will think I'm talking about somebody's ministry, and I'm not. But we all know where that came from. After all of what Job had did, he held fast because he realized that restoration follows tribulation. And see, folks, sometimes when somebody's dealing with a situation, it's their situation. Please see your way out. Please. Leave it alone. It doesn't concern you. Not to that degree. Remember, sometimes we take too much upon ourselves. Folks, we need to learn to wait to see if an invitation is extended. Stop inserting yourself in situations when no one asked you. You end up doing more harm than good, regardless of how much scripture you think you know. Regardless of how often you believe the Most High speaks to you. Sometimes learn how to wait, learn how to be patient, learn how to have empathy and be quiet. Learn how to be in the presence, be supportive, and be quiet. Don't think you always have to have something to say. Everyone is not waiting for your perspective on things. Because oftentimes your perspective is not accurate. Your perspective is your perspective. And you want to be careful about giving your perspective about someone else's situation. Your perspective is reserved for your situation. He's a mean man. No, I'm not. Job also, with all of what happened, because we know the long and short of it, and that's the part we all remember, everything was restored to him. But look at what he lost. Look at what he went through. Look at what he endured. You know, most church folk, we skip to but he got it all back and more. Yeah, but there was a lot of pain. There was a lot of growth. There was a lot of loss. There was a lot of sadness. There was a lot of pain. Life was ugly. He didn't get to keep his little schedule. Remember that white picket fence he had and the 10 children that he had? They were gone. Our little schedules get out of line and we go all to pieces. Life is going to do more than just upset your schedule. And all creation don't run on your time. You just a part of creation. That's it. And I'll say it again. Yah does not need an apologist. We need one. He doesn't. He did not hang a help wanted sign, and so many people are always applying for that job. There is no position. We follow what he did. Job still, he distributed his wealth and his blessings. And Job also planned for his legacy. Now, we're going to start in 38. And before I get into 38, and please accept this in the spirit that is given, and it is being given with a strong emphasis on returning to Yah's order. Forget church system. We are interested in Yah's order. Forget religious church system. Please. It's not going to do you any good in the coming days. Oh, yeah, and by the way, today is July 1st. What does that mean? Well, what that means, Barry, I'll tell you what that means. We've had 2 quarters go by for the 2023 year. Don't raise your hands. Look at the screen. How many of you have made any entries in that book that was given to you about tracking your expenses? Don't answer, don't do anything. That's between you and the Most High. I'm just asking a question. And no, I am not applying for the apologist job. Because that doesn't exist. Folks, it's none of my business, but I am impressed to tell you, please start tracking your finances. Please. You need to know where your money's going. Back to Job. Now, his 3 friends, they waited 7 days before they said anything, which was wonderful. And, again, saints, we really need to spend more time in learning how to be there for one another for real. It's more to it than looking up a scripture, and how about just talking to the person? How about, and when I say talk to them, just let them know, man, my heart aches for you. Maybe you won't even say that. Just, ask them, can you embrace them? Because they may not feel like getting a hug. I don't know. Everybody's different with how they handle loss. See, sometimes folks, a good example. Sometimes when you're with somebody that you know, or you're wanting to know, or you're getting to know you. Remember that? You can be together sometime and not say a word. And the atmosphere is nice. When you goo-goo gaga about somebody, when you see them, you just feel good. You feel good and they feel good. And folks looking at y'all, and they say, look at them. Of course, that's before things get serious, but still it's a good time. When it comes to loss, we need to learn how to do the same thing. Church system teaches you, get them a card, find some scriptures, and it's the same stuff. But Torah teaches, when your hearts are together and when you have been real with a person and they've been real with you, you can just look at a person. You can look at them. When you hear the news, it can bring tears to your eyes. But not so much tears to your eyes, and you go rushing and almost tackle a person. Come on, they're in a weakened state. I do like what Eliphaz first said before he opened his mouth and inserted his foot. He basically said, Job, I got something I want to say. Will you hear me? See, a lot of us, because of church system, if we got something to say, we just going to say it. And I'm going to tell you, this got nothing to do with church. This is just in life. Play the words over in your mind before you say it. Even if you think, oh, this is brilliant. They need to hear this. Wait just a second. Maybe they don't need to hear it. Or, here's another thought. Maybe they need to hear it, but not from you. And not now. See, empathy requires a lot more than just book knowledge about a bunch of steps you go through, 1, 2, 3, 4, with no heart, with no feeling in it. We've all been trained. Somebody do something nice for you, first thing out your mouth, thank you. Do you really mean it? Or are you just practicing what you've been trained to say? See, that's what gives things a plastic feel. It feels, it feels hollow. Now, it's proper in church. But guys, we got to get past that stuff. That's the stuff that brought the pandemic on. And so if we gearing up to bring more of the same garbage, we're going to get another pandemic. Eliphaz had his say. The other two had their say. And Job answered each one of them. And he educated each one of them. But what happens, and see, this is why it's so crucial for believers to watch what they say, not only to one another, but around one another. Because, see, the same spirit they had when they arrived was not the same spirit that was around when each one of them had their say. It became almost combative. Now, here this man has suffered loss, and these three men want to show how much scripture they think they know. And it got so each one of them misrepresented the Most High, and he dealt with them. We'll get into that and see that's not what we want to do. A lot of times we've inserted ourselves in a situation. Nobody invited you. You inserted yourself. You want your 15 minutes, you got them. And it's possible you misrepresent the Most High. And some of us have, because I'm in church, some of us have kind of fudged and fibbed about what thus saith the Lord. That stuff come right out of your intellect. And he already said, our righteousness is as filthy rags. And I would tell y'all what he was talking about, but I'm not going to do that. Because y'all really would think, oh, he is so crass. Folks, we shouldn't be so pompous as believers. We turn a lot of people off with that stuff. I told you before, we're middle class. I don't care if you got a summer home. We're still middle class. And we're going to find out what it is to be middle class real shortly. Let me get into 38. Now, I done set the stage. Everybody's had their say. Every one of the friends had their say. Job responded to each one of them. But here's what happened. Because the spirit and the atmosphere had changed from what they originally came to do, they got Job. See, with each one of their, I guess, in their minds, they thought they were encouraging Job. They put Job on the defensive. And Job, as most of us do, when we're attacked, we get defensive and we go overboard the other way. We do one or two things. We either start reading their mail, or we start saying, I'm telling you for the 100th time, I didn't do anything. And I told you in another sharing before, a lot of times, saints, people that claim they hear from God, that they know all of this, in the back of their little pea brain is, you know, if he was really serving the Lord, this wouldn't have never happened to him. He must have done something. She must have done something. Heck, you got some leaders that kind of teach that. And so By the time the third person come with Job, and they start out nice and then start working in and all of this. And I mean, Job, he got them. He got them. He got them. He got them. And then Job starts saying, well, man, now, hey, I don't know what I did. Job began to say, man, I wish I had never been born. And then one time he said, man, would you be so unkind to a friend? Because sometimes people that say they're your friend, some of the times, some of the stuff that they say, it's like, are we friends or not? And that's when I came up, I said, a lot of us have frenemies. Because I told you, see, there are a lot of people, for whatever reason, they want to be around you, and you think it's because they like you. Not necessarily so. You'd be surprised who's envious of you. And you don't have to be of the same sex either. People are weird. And it doesn't have to be envy. A lot of times sometimes the thing you don't like about a person, that's because they're mirroring you. Never thought about that. Well, try it. I had a situation where a fella kept asking me, everything all right between us? And about after the fourth time, not the same day, at different intervals, I got to where I said, look, man, I don't know if you think I'm lying or not. I don't have an issue with you. The question is, what is your issue with me? See, now a lot of people don't like that. Like, you ain't had to come out like that. And I'm like, no, that's the way men are. That's the way masculine men are. Effeminate men, they do a little different. And see, really, for a relationship to be true, or a friendship, or even if it's not a friendship or a relationship, maybe you have a working relationship, and maybe you ain't never gonna be friends. Because see, a lot can get done and you still don't. Again, I always like to use the statement, I may never come to your house for tea and cookies. I may never invite you to my house for tea and cookies. But I feel a sense of duty to everybody here that aspires to live out Torah. Notice I didn't say that come to church and work in the church system. Everybody had to say, I still got plenty of time. Listen to this. Now, realize this now, while this discourse was going through with the three friends and Job, the Most High was listening. And like I said, when Job started defending himself, he was like, well, I ain't done nothing. I do this, I do that, I do this, I do that. And a lot of times you all hear me all the time, I keep saying, because see, that's another thing a lot of us get caught up. I'm a good little boy. I'm a good little girl. That ain't enough. That ain't what? Are you kidding me? What do you want, a suede cookie? That is so immature. And it is frustrating when people that claim to know better show they don't. It says, then Yah answered Job out of the storm. Listen to this. He says, who is this darkening my plans with his ignorant words? Now, he's talking to Job right now. He's talking to Job who knocked down all three of them other friends. you know. And so a lot of times, people be like, oh, I'm so glad, I get him, God. You know, and that's another thing. Wow, saints, like, get him, Lord. Like you control him. Get him, Lord. And then back in the day, some of the leaders would say, Almighty God will strike you down. Well, he can, but that's his decision, not yours. Then Yah answered Job. He says, who is this darkening my plans with his ignorant words? I love this. He says, stand up like a man and brace yourself. The Most High say something like that? See, because a lot of us think, oh, he's so nice, and everything I pray for, I get. And if that's the case, hey, wonderful for you. Good for you. And that's no shade. And what is the other thing? And I ain't hating. He says, stand up like a man and brace yourself. I will ask questions and you give the answers. See, a lot of times, folks, he hear the stuff we sing about. He hear the stuff we think we teach about. Can you imagine if he just said, all of y'all about as smart as a bowl of rocks? I told you, because a lot of times we hear, we're sheep. And I told you, sheep is a wonderful, cuddly creature. But sheep can mean something else too. Not very intelligent. I'll say it that way, because I'm in church. The word peculiar. Peculiar means peculiar, not bizarre and strange. See, a lot of people think the more bizarre they are and the stranger they are, they think that's being peculiar. No, you're just being weird. He's a mean man. Well, Donnie, you be up in a little bit. He says, stand up like a man and brace yourself. I will ask questions and you give the answers. And then he says, where were you when I founded the earth? Tell me if you know so much. And that's why, isn't that something, I like to say that to a whole lot of folk that always love to grab the mic. I'm like, sit down and shut up. I can't say that, though. That's not nice. I mean, where were you when I founded the earth? Tell me if you know so much. Do you know who determined the dimensions or who stretched the measuring line across it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. I mean, saints, I have talked some stuff. I told you, I've accused him of some really idiotic stuff because of how I felt. Because I gave in to my emotions. I was talking with one of my guys this morning. I was giving him a ride home. And I was really happy because they showed up, got on time. We left. I had plenty of time. I didn't have to break my neck getting down here. This time. But see, he's going to work all that out too. But that's for him to work out. See, things are the way they are because that's the way he wants them for right now. Where's your faith? We got some growing up to do. We got to grow up soon. And we got to let some of this Alice in Wonderland stuff we've been espousing, open the book, tear the pages out, and throw it out, because it's no good. It's no good. It's ineffective. A real war is coming. Who shut up the sea behind closed doors when it gushed forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its blanket and dense fog its swaddling cloth. When I made the breakers its boundary and set its gates and bars and said, you may come this far, but no farther. Here your proud waves must stop. In other words, he's saying, man, whatever I say, it happened. After all that stuff you and your 3 friends talked, now I got some questions for you, Job. Now remember, this is the same entity that said Job was a wonderful man. And I've said to you in times past, and I know a lot of people think, boy, that boy off the wall. I told you, he ain't nobody's friend. He gets everybody, the perpetrator, the victim. That's another thing. Listen, folks, Emmanuel Worship Center is withdrawing from the Victim Olympics. Everyone has a grievance. We don't have one. Too much has been invested, sacrificed, and placed here for us to be in the state we're in. We need to grow up yesterday. And the first order of business, we're getting out of the Victim Olympics. We are not victims. Then he asked him, he said, have you ever in your life called up the dawn and made the morning know its place? Made the morning know its place. And now we want to tell God how things need to be to meet ours. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Yeah, he loves us. But I can only imagine. Well, I'll just speak for myself. I believe with every fiber of my being that he loves me. But I also believe with every fiber of my being, some days he don't like me. Because some days I don't like me. And I know I can hear y'all, me too. And that's all right. I can handle it. And you can too. Let me go to 39 a little bit. He asked Job, he said, can you raise your voice to the clouds and make them cover you with a flood of rain? Can you send lightning bolts on their way? Will they say to you, how are we? He's asking him all of these questions. Because Job was in his integrity, but he went a little too far because he allowed his emotions to get the better of him. And I certainly can sympathize, because sometimes, yes, what people say should not affect you, but when it's coming from a common source and that source is like nails on a chalkboard, after a while you're going to respond and it ain't going to be too pleasant if you're human. Now, some of us don't think we are. Okay. whatever. He asked, who lets the wild donkey roam freely? Who sets the wild donkey loose from its shackles? I made the Arava its home, the desert, the salty desert its place to live. He asked him a whole lot of other questions in 42, and this is how Job responded after that barrage of questions. And I know a lot of us have been there after we had our say. Because some of us, some people actually believe, well, what you want, if I pray, God always answer my prayers. He always answer everybody's prayers. Sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no, and sometimes it's not now. You get an answer. You might not like the answer, but that's the reality of the situation. And I like what Pastor Howard said some time ago. He said, you're not special. And see, a lot of us think we special. He said, we ain't special. He said, you're precious. I thought that was rather nice. Look, this is after Job took that, and I can imagine his face got lower and lower, and he probably was prostrate on the floor anyway. Let me do that. I hope I can get back up. You see, when really you're having a moment with the Most High, you ain't sitting in your high back, well, you shouldn't be sitting in your high back chair with your legs folded, fanning yourself. How low can you go, saints? We should be willing to go as low as we gotta go. See, I'm being a little bit dramatic. Because see, again, we're under the guise that in order for people to learn something, we gotta entertain them. We need to be careful about that. That's more church system stuff. I'm not against entertainment. I love in life. I want you to enjoy life. I was so happy to hear you went to L.A. I said, Lord, now I'm going to be thinking about that. Ruby LeGrand in L.A. Ruby L.A. LeGrand. Seattle, I'm sorry. I don't know why I thought you was in L.A. Okay, you said West Coast. I just thought L.A. That's still nice. Ken Griffey Jr. used to play for the Seattle. He was my favorite baseball player. He was real good. Oh, yeah, well, he all right. He okay. He's a nice guy. Yeah, he catch a lot of flack for being a nice guy. He might want to just be a kind guy and stop being a nice guy. Because, see, that's another thing. The word nice has a whole different connotation, folks. Men, you do not want to be referred to as nice. It's got a whole nother connotation. You want to be kind. Being nice can be hazardous to your health. This is how Job responded. He said, I am too ashamed. I have listened. Ooh. Can everybody say this with me? I'm going to say these words too first and just humor me. Because I know some of you are just asking me to say something in church and I have on my finery. Yes. And your hair did. And your nails done. Say this with me. I'm going to read these two sentences and just repeat this with me. Humor me. No, don't do this for me. If you love Yah, repeat this. I just roped you in. I am too ashamed. Now, I really want to hear this. I have nothing to say. Then he said, I lay my hands over my mouth. Yes, I spoke once, but I won't answer more. All right, twice, but I won't go on in. See, when you realize you inserted your foot in your mouth, particularly when you're dealing with the Most High, we should be ashamed. We should be ashamed. Like I said, I use myself as example. Some of the stuff that I accused him of, I mean, his mercy endureth forever because I'm still here. But I let the vicissitudes of life shape, hey, what's going on here? I'm saying the Most High, hey, I want the truth. And God's saying to me, you can't handle the truth. But things happen in your life sometimes. You go, wait a minute, hold it, wait a minute. I am too ashamed. I have nothing to say. I lay my hand over my mouth. Yes, I spoke once, but I won't answer more. All right, twice, but I won't go on. And sometimes, I don't know whether this has ever happened to you, but sometimes after you've given your long laundry list, after I've given my long laundry list of complaining and whining, oh boy, some of us, we can whine all the time. And I'm going to tell you something, saints. Nothing discourages a person more than somebody that's... See, let me say this. Stop trying to make people happy. That's up to them to make them happy. I'm going to say this again. I don't care how many letters people got behind their name. You can't make somebody else happy. That's got to come from them. And a lot of us are miserable. You ever done an act of cassette and felt absolutely nothing? I gotta ask you, if you felt absolutely nothing, was that an act of cassette? Oh yeah, they got the whatever they needed. You know, I think there's a little more to that formula. Folks, you know, how is it that on one hand, we're talking about all the majestic things he can do, and then before we get to the parking lot, we got a laundry list of things that we're unhappy or concerned about. And then you break it down even more, and you say, well, folks, I'm going to give you some life advice. Control what you can control. It's too many of us that are stressing ourselves out because we're embarking upon things that don't concern us. That's somebody else's plight. Let them deal with that. The things you can't control, you got to leave that up to him. Again, for all of you that know the Bible backwards and forwards, he said what? Having done all you can to stand. Let me say that again. Having done all you can to stand. I'm going to say that one more time and maybe the light bulb will go off. Having done all you can to stand. See, this thing about just going in your prayer closet and God gonna handle the rest, that's inaccurate. That's inaccurate. And I'm sure seminars have taught that, and y'all done flown people in and took up big offerings. That's not accurate. The Most High has told you again, and I stand on this thing. He said, I've given you everything pertaining to life and godliness. I have given. Sound like he already gave it. I have given you everything pertaining to life and godliness. Barry, I have given you everything pertaining to life and godliness. Why are you whining to me? Your answer is in my instructions. Get to reading. And not only get to reading, since you so anti-church system, now you got to get to doing. Because y'all down there and you got all them Hebrew scholars, and one of the first things y'all were taught was to know is to do. So get busy doing and shut up. You got something else to say, son? Oh. Snot flying still. I don't think you like me sometimes. No, I don't go that far, because I know if he didn't like me, I wouldn't be here. He doesn't like a lot of things that I do. And he don't like the way that I think sometimes. And he don't like when I am not mature enough to not want to have a one-on-one in the parking lot with people. and keep it nice. Listen to this. Again, he says to him, oh my gosh. Again, he says, are you impugning my justice? You know, a lot of us, we have said, God, that's not fair. God said, I surmise, he says, well, I never told you I was fair. I told you I was righteous. That's better than fair. Of course, we don't want to hear that. Oh, the stuff we worry ourselves about. And that stuff that's on somebody else's plate. Eat what's on your plate. Eat what's on your plate. He created a banquet for us. But most of us, we only get the stuff we like. And everything that he had on the plate is good for us. And most of us know that's over 40. I better say 45. What's always necessarily good to you may not be good for you. Are you impugning my justice? Oh, I didn't realize. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right. I'm going to mark here. And I apologize, people, for keeping you over. Because I didn't care for that when it used to happen to me. But I had sense enough not to say anything about it. I'm going to close. I'm not fussing. I'm really not. I'm not directing anything at anybody in particular, but everybody in general. Folks, we got some growing up to do. And we need to put a lot of stuff that we think is foundational. It's not. We need to put that stuff away. I mean, you can. I'm not saying it's of no value. I wouldn't do that. I'm not that puffed up. I know some of you may find that hard to believe. I'm not saying it is of no value, but for where we're going, we need something else. And it's going to be Torah-based. And God's order is going to be at the forefront. God bless you. Donna, will you